Alright guys, it's starting to rain on me again. Unfortunate, I wanted to do a little bit more shooting and show you some further distances. I'm at 325 right now. I've just got some bulk box ammo. I've got a 6-inch target here at 325 and my Athlon Helos Gen 2 624. I'm going to try to outrun the rain here, and we'll just get a few hits in here. The sun is going down, so it's going to test at least a little bit of optical clarity and how it deals with light collection. That 34mm tube and 56mm objective should give us the best fighting shot we can with the glass quality. There we go. 2 in a row. Three in a row. Oh, 4 in a row. Not bad for bulk box, guys. Oh, that was a hit. That was a hit. That was a glance. That was 5 in a row. That was the last one. Not too bad. So I'm pretty happy with it. I'd say the light collection is just fine. I'm shooting against a fairly dark berm, but I do have a light colored target. It's not hard to find. The reticle, it's just a hair smaller, you know, and so as far as aiming on like paper targets, it's fantastic because it's a little bit smaller and you can really aim on something fine. If you're shooting targets like what I'm shooting now that don't have any fine aiming point, sometimes you lose it a little bit. I'll be honest, you lose it just a little bit, but I'm pretty trained with this kind of reticle now because most of my reticles look like this, and so I think it's not too bad to try to pick it up again. But the actual wind holds and everything else, I feel like it's much easier to find, and I had to use a mil off for this anyway, so not too difficult to get back in there and just shoot in 22, so you can pretty much stay in the glass the whole time during the recoil process and see your round to leave and then come back in and hit that target. Pretty cool. I really like it. Definitely a fan of this optic.
Alright, Athlon Helos BTR Gen 2. And just for a little bit of an analysis or comparison, something else to look at, I have an Aries ETR 4.5 to 30 here, and this is, so that's like their Gen 1. It's kind of an upper class version of the Helos. It's just slightly better in a few respects. But they both have a 56mm objective and a 34mm main tubes that lets in a lot of light, just makes it easier to get more elevation as well, and they both have a wonderful amount of elevation compared to most other scopes in the market. That's one of the reasons I like Athlon, is there's plenty of elevation and internal elevation as well as in the reticle. So both of them have plenty there. The ETR, you know, it's actually not much longer than the 6 to 24. That's one thing that's kind of odd. It's a big heavy scope. I like it for that reason. It's a precision scope. But the BTR, which has 6 less power, it's really not that much smaller or lighter. It's still a pretty large scope, and I'm okay with that. I don't need tiny scopes, and if I do, I'm certainly not going to go with these. These are for weighing a rifle down a little bit, in my opinion. So the illumination, I'll start with that. I don't care much about illumination, but it does have 6 settings and an off in between. That's great. I don't even have a battery in there. And with this, has zeros for the off. I kind of prefer that. I guess if I'm going to use it, I prefer the 0 as an off identifier. The parallax on the ETR is much smoother. You would expect that with a optic that's about twice the price, and it goes down to 25 yards, which is good for NRL. But the Helos goes all the way down to 10 yards. So if you needed an air rifle optic, this is really, really good and goes up to infinity. It's slightly stiffer, but the knurling on the turrets and knobs is more aggressive. And so if I just give you a little comparison here, you can see the ETR has taller and larger turrets, easier to hold on to because of that, but the aggressive knurling makes the Helos pretty much identical in function. The ETR, when I grab onto it, I can turn it up pretty easily, no problems here. Plenty of elevation. Overall, I believe it's 32 or 33. I think it's closer to 33 total. And then just a locking side turret there as well in mils. If you listen to that, nice and crunchy. That's the way I like it. It's not hard to get just 1 or 2 mil increments. You don't skip over them. Slightly tight on the windage locking turret, just one locking turret. And on the BTR, it almost seems a little smoother and it could just be the texture. Maybe I can get a better grasp of it or something. I'm not sure. It's a smaller head on the turret, but I looked for blade play or not blade play, rather turret play, and there's not a bunch of turret play in there. Not sloppy. Both are locking, and the windage is slightly tough to get out, even when it's on the rifle. Just slightly stiff. Works fine though. I don't prefer locking turrets, but these work pretty well. It's not terrible. I'm usually using the elevation turret, and you can hear here the turrets sound great. Just a little bit stiff, but and then the windage sounds a little bit different than the elevation. That's one thing I noticed. Alright, here's a shot of the reticle. So that tiny dot all the way down, it's pretty small. It's very hard to use at those lower magnifications. I'm not sure that it's real practical other than very close. But I like the reticle. It's my preferred style. Plenty of holdover. Very clear and easy to read, especially with the windage, or if you're using that to measure or guesstimate distances. Overall, the comparison here between the two, you can see just how big the 2 to 12 is. The 6 to 24 and the 2 to 12 are not that different. I kind of feel like the 2 to 12 should be a little smaller, but the 6 to 24, yep, pretty average for other 6 to 24s out there with 56 millimeter objective. And so I'm just going to give a short update of what I think thus far. So if you have around $500 or $600, depending where you're buying this, I know there's other optics like the Arkin optics. They have a 4016, they have a 6 to 24. Vortex has competition in this range. I would say their primary focus is competing with Vortex most of the time. A lot of companies are competing with Vortex right now. And my opinion is this scope just feels much better than the Vortex that are in, this competition range, this price range. I just think it's better. I think the turrets feel a lot better. I prefer the zero stop method. I think the glass is probably a little bit better. I usually prefer the reticle slightly, although they're just not that different. Some of the Vortex reticles are very similar. The look and the feel of the scope overall, it's slightly heavy. You can see when I just shot there, my trigger is 12 ounces and I let one go early. This still happens to me. Yeah, the scope is great, guys. I don't have any complaints. When I did a tracking test, locked the scope in the rifle down, and did a tracking test, a tall test, yeah, it's fantastic. It's almost indiscernible that it's off at all. So I think the tolerances are really, really good on these. I'm not sure if it's as good as the ETR. Like I said, the feel of the ETR seems more robust, but I have to say this Helos Gen 2 series is really pushing the market in the right direction. This seems extremely hard for other companies to compete against. The prices are getting better and better, and the optical quality, performance, precision of these tools is really, I think it's one of the best in the market. What you're getting right now for around $500 or $600, just a few years ago you would have had to pay $2,500 for, especially concerning the tolerances and the glass quality. So I think it's fair to go ahead and pick one up. I'm leaving it on my 22 just like you see it here.